Hi, this is Gary. Welcome to today's video. So today it's part 2 of the unboxing of my latest delivery from Cult Pens in the UK. Here's the envelope before I've even taken out the first lot, because as I say, this is part 2. I haven't even seen what's in here yet, although I know roughly what it is. So in this one, when we go down to the table, you'll see it's a lot smaller because all that's left in there is a pen. What we're going to do is we're going to take a look at the pen. We'll look at the ink I'm going to put in it. I'll do a writing sample and then I'll give you my first impressions. So join me now down on the mat and we'll take a look at this glorious pen that I'm expecting to see in this package. So here we are down on the mat. The envelope, it's a lot thinner, isn't it? I mean, we took out them notepads and the inks last week. That's made quite a bit of difference. So let's get into this envelope and see the last bit that's in here. So here it comes. It's a pen and it's in this gorgeous black box. So we've got the TWSBI logo up here. So obviously this is a TWSBI pen. Now I've been waiting for this pen for quite a while. You know, you keep seeing it advertised and you keep thinking, oh, I really want that. I'm taking it slowly out of the box. So it just slides out. Then that gives us this really nice plastic box. Isn't that well packaged? Let me just turn it around. So we've got TWSBI here, got the TWSBI logo, got a seal, and underneath, that's about it really for the box. So let me just open this up. Sealed at the end, that's why it wouldn't open. Okay, let's try again. I've taken off them seals, we'll open it up. And I like this packaging here, so we're still hiding the pen away from sight, aren't we? This just cardboard, and this, it's saying it's the user manual. Let's open that last flap, and that reveals this, the TWSBI Draco. Wow, this is my first time looking at it. It is glorious looking. There's a bit of paper here. This is about the mechanism. So as well as the pen, we've got some silicone grease, and then we've got the ratchet which you can use to get into the mechanism if you want to clean it out. Just going to pull the pen out. I'm going to move the box over to one side. Let's take this off and I'll fetch in one of my pebbles. There we go. Let's rest that pen on there. Just look at this. Let me just slowly spin this around so we can see it in all its glorious magnificence. Well, they're two words I don't often say. Now that wasn't a scratch, that was just a bit of material. Doesn't that look nice? I'm just going to reach over and fetch in another pen. Now this is the TWSBI. The pen I'm going to fetch in really reminds me of it, and it's a D-like New Moon 2 in the dark rose pattern. To me that looks very similar, doesn't it? Yes, the TWSBI is more brighter reds, but still that's really looks similar to me. So let's take a closer look at the pen. Let's stand it on its end, see if I can get the camera to focus in on this. Here we have the TWSBI logo on the top. It's a nice flat top. Looks like that's been ground into it. We'll then come down into the cap. The clip, it's got a rose gold colour to it. Nice and springy, nice and easy. Be interesting to see what that's like in a shirt pocket. The cap looks like it's tapering up, so it's a bit narrower at the end, tapering up as we go along. God, look at this nice colour. The bottom of the cap, we've got TWSBI. There's nothing else on there. Then we've got this rose coloured band going around here. Down to the body, there's a tiny little step. Not enough that you'd really notice it, but you've got to be aware there is one there. We then come into the body. Again, tapering down ever so slightly. Just look at that colour again. I know I'm going to keep calling out this colour. Another gold band. And then we've got the mechanism for working the piston. So that comes out and then goes back in. Again, standing it up on the end. Take a look at the bottom. Although it looks flat, it feels like there's a little tiny dome there. I'm not sure if this is focusing on the camera. So laying it back down, how about taking off the cap so it's half, 1, 1 1/4, just over 1 1/4 turns to take that cap off. We take the cap off and that reveals the section, which is the same colour as the rest of the pen, and then this rose gold coloured nib. I think it's a steel nib that's just been plated. I don't actually think it is a gold nib. Now, to me, yes, I know they're calling this rose gold, but that doesn't look very rose gold to me. It actually looks like a normal goldy type colour. Maybe there's a little tiny hint of pink in there, but I think it's a push to call it rose gold. Got some engraving on the nib. We've got this decorative border. Then we've got the TWSBI logo. Underneath that, we've got the word TWSBI. Then below that, we've got B for the broad nib. From the nib, we come into the section. There's a little bit of a lip at the bottom of the section, and the section itself, well, it's not actually that big. If I hold it so you can see, the pen as a whole is not too bad. I'd be quite happy to use that unposted. Does it post? Yes, it does, but to me, I wouldn't be happy with this because it posts onto here. And I can just see me trying to take the cap off, firing that piston mechanism, and then getting ink all over. The section then leads into this clear ink window, so we do have a way of seeing what ink's in there. That's one of the bugbears I have with a number of pens where they're piston fillers but not translucent bodies. You never know how much ink is in it, so like this idea of the ink window, a little bit like what we see on a narwhal. And then to these gold coloured threads here. These threads, they're actually fairly rough when I rub my finger over them. A lot rougher than a lot of the pens I have. Just put that cap back on. Love the look of this pen. You'll hear me say that a few times. So let's do some size comparisons. Just going to fetch in another pebble. Let's move this up a little bit. So the first pen I'm going to fetch in is a Pilot Metropolitan. Yeah, they're roughly the same size. A TWSBI Eco. Again, roughly the same length. A TWSBI Diamine 580. Well, that's definitely a longer pen. A TWSBI VAC 700R. This is in the iris pattern. And that is substantially longer. Let's try some other pens. So we've got a Pen BBS 308. Again, it's longer again. A Moonman M800. The Moonman's just slightly longer. Then the last pen we'll look at, a Leonardo Momento Zero Grande. Definitely a massive pen compared to that TWSBI. So let's look at some nib comparisons now. I'm going to fetch it in a slightly different stand. Here we go. Here's that TWSBI Draco. Next to it, I'm going to put the TWSBI Eco. I'm going to try to line up the bottom of the sections where possible. The TWSBI Diamine 580 and the TWSBI VAC 700R. So definitely the Eco's nib is slightly smaller. It looks to me as if the nib is the same size as the 580, but definitely it's a lot smaller than on that VAC 700R. Now I'm going to be honest, I would have preferred the Draco to have the same nib as the VAC 700R. I think that larger nib would have looked better. And to be honest, it wouldn't have bothered me too much if it was a gold coloured nib, but I think it does need to be larger. But we'll find out in a few minutes when we do our writing with it. So what I'm going to do now, I'm going to clear all this off. I'm going to give the pen a clean through. When I come back, we'll take a look at the ink. We'll do a writing sample, and then I'll give you my first impressions of this pen. Okay, here I am back. It's cleaned out, got rid of any grease or any burrs that may have been in there to give me the best chance of getting a really good writing experience. So let's take a look at the ink that I'm going to be using in it. Well, it's by Diamine and it's called Red Dragon. I mean, first, the match is based on the name, I've got to be honest. You've got the Draco pen, so I thought, what better than a Dragon ink? But once I'd swatched this ink, it's actually a really good match. I mean, let me fetch that pen in. Just look at that, the colours, it's picking them up really well. You know, yes, there's some lighter colours and some darker, but the vast majority of the red in here is picking up that ink colour. So I'm really looking forward to getting this ink into this pen and seeing what it's like. So let's fetch in that ink bottle. Here we go. So this is Diamine Red Dragon. Let's take the lid off. And let's fill this beauty. So the pen hopefully will fit into the ink bottle. Yes, it does. And let's work this piston mechanism. And hopefully, here it goes. We should have a nice fill. Well, looking in the ink window, we've definitely got ink in there. Not sure how full it is, but I'll find out over the next few weeks as I'm writing with this and I see how long it lasts. Just wiped off the section and the nib. Let's pop that back in whilst I get rid of this ink bottle before Gary, being his usual clumsy self, ends up spilling it all over the place. Right, let's fetch in our paper. As usual, I'm using the Oxford notepad with the optic paper. Really like this paper. I really like the optic paper because it's nice, fountain pen friendly. It's a nice white paper. The lines, nice and ruled. Really get on well with this. And I try to use this for all my pen tests. So let's kick off with this. And what have we got? We've got a TWSBI Draco in that broad nib. Wow, that's nice. That's nice and smooth. There's a little bit of noise coming off it, which we'll see as we go through. The colours are coming out really, really nice. The ink, Diamine Red Dragon. I think if you've got small handwriting, this is definitely not the pen and nib for you because this is such a gorgeous thick line coming out of here. I really am looking forward to using this because I think this will really suit how I write. Let's look at drying times though. Immediate. Gosh, that's fairly wet, isn't it? We'll wait for 10 seconds. Doesn't really seem to have changed much, does it? This time, we'll wait for 30 seconds. Again, that doesn't seem to have changed at all for me. 1 minute. Well, after a minute, it's still got a lot of wetness in. Now, normally I don't do this, but I'm going to actually leave this one for 2 minutes because I want to see if it does dry after 2 minutes. So after 2 minutes, it's still got a little bit of wetness there. I'm just going to make a note here, this is 2 minutes, just so I can understand why I've got so many when I'm just doing my tests. So this pen and ink combination, definitely if you're going to be using it for taking lots of notes at one go, I wouldn't recommend it. If you're going to be using it for doing odd one-offs, maybe a page at a time and then being able to leave it to dry, yeah, I think you get away with it. Or make sure you've got some blotting paper handy because if you've got to wait 2 minutes between pages, it's really going to disrupt your thought processes. So for my next test, I'm going to move the mic close to the paper so that you can hear it right. So there you go. Yes, there's a little bit of noise. You can actually hear it writing. I'm not feeling much feedback coming through the pen, but it also doesn't feel like writing on glass like some of my pens. It's a really pleasant experience. The pen itself is really comfortable in the hand. You know, if I take there, my writing position is usually fairly low down, and I'm finding this really nice and easy to write with. If I just rest it in my hands and draw it across a paper, you know, so this is no pressure at all on the nib. And that nib's still giving me that glorious line. I mean, this is an absolutely glorious pen to write with. You know, I think it is one where it wants to be written with big. So here we have that TWSBI Draco. I know it's a limited number. There's only 3,000 worldwide, so I do feel lucky to have got one. I know they weren't cheap. I do think it was worth the money though. It looks really nice. You know, these colorings, it's absolutely gorgeous. With this ink, I think it's such a good match. It's a shame it's such a wet writer. I mean, yes, I know it's a broad nib, so you expect some wetness because you're getting more ink coming out. But it looks, you know, there, I've already caught that with my hand. and that was a few minutes ago that I wrote that. So definitely something you've got to be aware of. If you're using the broad nib with a wettish ink, you're going to have to make sure you leave plenty of time to dry or use blotting paper. The pen feels really nice to write with. It's not heavy. I am not comfortable posting it, as I said earlier on, because I think the post is on here. It's on this filler cap, and I can just see myself twisting to take the cap off and then twisting that accidentally. Now, this is the same for a lot of pens where we've got this piston or vacuum filling mechanism, so it's not unique to this pen. I tend to try and avoid posting most of my pens anyway, so that's not going to be a problem. I love the colour of the ink that's coming out of this pen. It's gorgeous. I had looked at using something like Ox Blood or Writer's Blood in here, but to be honest, I'm really glad that I got the Red Dragon, because I think it's a dragon name for a dragon pen, and I think the colour is really nice. Yes, there's not a lot in the way of shade, but I don't expect that anyway. I will give this a go at some later stage on Tomoe River, then I can come back in a follow-up review and let you know how that comes out. So yep, this is the TWSBI Draco and Diamine Red Dragon ink. So here we are, we've seen the pen, this glorious TWSBI Draco. What are your thoughts about it? Do you have one? Would you have liked one? How about the ink? What do you think to my ink choice for this pen? Please drop a comment down below. Let's kickstart that conversation. If you haven't already, please hit the thumbs up button, give the video a like. The more people that like and comment, well, it just helps that YouTube algorithm to surface my content for other people. Please subscribe to my channel so that you can get new videos as I release them. I'll talk to you again soon.